The emergency alarms screamed across the massive space station as hundreds of alien delegates rushed through the metal corridors. Their different-shaped feet clicked and scraped against the floor while they hurried toward the main meeting hall. Some had 4 arms, others had scales that glowed in the dim light, and a few floated instead of walking. Commander Tyke was the first to reach the giant round table in the center of the room. His blue skin was covered in sweat, and his 3 eyes blinked rapidly as he tried to catch his breath. The other aliens filed in behind him, their faces showing the same fear that had been growing for months. "Show them the reports," Tyke said to his assistant, a small creature with purple fur and tiny hands. The lights dimmed and a huge picture appeared in the air above the table. It showed a planet that used to have beautiful cities and green forests. Now it was nothing but smoke and broken buildings. In the middle of all the destruction stood a massive black creature that looked like it was made of living shadow and sharp teeth. "This is what happened to New Centauri yesterday," Tyke announced to the silent room. "Zareth destroyed everything in less than 6 hours. An old alien with gray skin and no hair raised one of his 4 hands. How many cities has it destroyed now?" 47, came the quiet answer, and the number keeps growing every day. The creature in the picture was 12 feet tall and covered in black scales that seemed to absorb light. Its claws were longer than a grown person's arm, and its red eyes glowed like burning coals. When it moved, the ground shook beneath its feet, and when it roared, windows broke for miles around. "What about our best soldiers?" asked a female alien whose skin looked like it was made of crystals. "Surely the Galactic Guard can stop one." Creature. Tyke's shoulders dropped. "We sent 3 full battle groups to Vega Prime last week. Elite warriors with the newest weapons and strongest armor." He paused and looked around the room. "Zareth killed them all in 20 minutes. Worried whispers filled the air as the aliens shifted in their seats. Many had ruled planets for hundreds of years and had never faced anything they could not defeat with their advanced technology and powerful armies. The plasma cannons that can destroy entire spaceships barely scratched its skin. Tyke continued. "Our mind readers cannot even sense its thoughts. The neural control devices that work on every other creature in the galaxy have no effect on it at all." Another picture appeared, showing Zareth walking through a rain of laser fire. The deadly beams that should have cut it in half simply bounced off its black scales like drops of water. Behind it, the twisted remains of war machines lay scattered across the battlefield like broken toys. "Where did this thing come from?" someone called out from the back of the room. "The old Dominion Empire," Tyke replied. "When their civilization collapsed 50 years ago, most of their secrets died with them. We found Zareth sleeping in a special chamber on their home world. Our scientists thought it was just another one of their failed experiments." The room fell quiet except for the soft humming of the air systems. Everyone knew about the Dominion Empire. They had been the most advanced civilization in the galaxy until they mysteriously vanished overnight, leaving behind empty cities and unanswered questions. "We tried everything," Tyke went on, his voice getting quieter. "Ancient artifacts from the first star travelers, songs that can calm the wildest beasts, even the sacred crystals from the temple worlds. Nothing works. Zareth seems to get stronger and angrier with each passing day." A new picture showed the creature's glowing red eyes as it stared directly at the camera. There was something in that gaze that made even the bravest warriors feel cold inside. It was not just anger or hunger. It was something deeper and more frightening than simple rage. "The worst part is how smart it is," Tyke added. "This is not just a mindless monster. It learns from every battle. Our tactics that work once never work again. It remembers every weapon we use and finds ways around them." The crystal-skinned alien leaned forward. "How long do we have?" Tyke pressed a button and a star map appeared, showing Zareth's path of destruction as a red line cutting through space. At its current speed, it will reach the core worlds in 8 days. That means billions of innocent lives are in danger. The room erupted in panicked voices as aliens began talking over each other in dozens of different languages. Some demanded immediate evacuation of the threatened planets. Others called for the construction of massive defensive barriers. A few suggested they should simply abandon the core systems and retreat to the outer rim. "Silence," Tyke shouted, and the room gradually grew quiet again. "We are the Galactic Council. We have protected peace in this galaxy for over 1,000 years. We will not run from one creature, no matter how dangerous it might be." But even as he spoke these brave words, Tyke could see the doubt in every alien face around the table. They had tried everything their advanced civilizations could offer, and it had not been enough. Somewhere in the dark space between the stars, Zareth continued its journey toward the heart of the galaxy, leaving only silence and ash in its wake. The transport ship landed on the metal surface of Kepler 44 to be with a soft thud that echoed through the empty landing bay. Steam hissed from the engines as the door slowly opened, revealing 2 figures stepping out into the artificial light of the fortress world. Dr. Lee Jun walked down the ramp first, carrying a small bag of scientific equipment in one hand. Behind him came his 8-year-old daughter Hannah, her dark eyes wide as she looked around at the massive walls and glowing energy barriers that surrounded them. The little girl wore a simple blue dress and carried a worn stuffed rabbit under her arm. "This is madness," growled General Vorth, a tall alien with thick gray skin and sharp teeth. His red eyes glared at the human father and daughter as they approached the group of waiting military commanders. "We are supposed to trust our survival to a child who still plays with toys." Commander Tyke stepped forward to greet the newcomers. Despite his earlier brave words to the Galactic Council, his blue skin looked pale and tired. Dark circles under his 3 eyes showed he had not slept in days. "Dr. Lee, thank you for coming," Tyke said, shaking the human's hand with 2 of his forearms. "I know this request was unusual, but we are running out of options." Dr. Lee nodded and glanced toward the distant energy barriers where flashes of red light could be seen moving back and forth. Even from miles away, they could hear the low rumbling sounds of Zareth pacing inside its prison like a caged storm. Has anyone tried to communicate with it? Dr. Lee asked, pulling out a small scanning device from his bag. "Our best linguists. Worked for weeks," replied Commander Tyke. "They tried every known language in the galaxy, mathematical sequences, even music. The creature ignores everything. It just keeps moving around the barriers, testing for weak spots." Hannah let go of her father's hand and walked closer to the edge of the landing platform. She stared across the rocky landscape toward the energy prison, her small face serious and thoughtful. The other aliens watched her nervously, unsure what to expect from such a young human. "What makes you think she can succeed where our experts failed?" asked Dr. Zenth, a female alien whose skin looked like moving water. "No offense to your species, but this creature has resisted every form of advanced technology we possess." Dr. Lee smiled and placed a gentle hand on his daughter's shoulder. "Humans evolved differently than most species in the galaxy. Where others learn to dominate other creatures through strength or technology, we learn to form bonds. Hannah has a special gift for understanding animals, even alien ones." Gift General Vorth snorted, his sharp teeth showing in what might have been a laugh. "That thing killed 3,000 of my best soldiers. It is not a pet that needs understanding. It is a weapon that needs to be destroyed." "Actually," Dr. Lee said quietly, checking his scanning device, "I am not sure it is a weapon at all. Look at these readings." He held up the small screen, showing waves of different colors moving across it. "These are stress patterns I have never seen before. Yes, there is aggression, but underneath that there is something else. Confusion, fear, even what looks like sadness." The alien commanders gathered around the device, studying the strange patterns with growing interest. They had been thinking of Zareth as a simple monster for so long that the idea it might have complex emotions seemed impossible. "Sadness, Commander," Tyke repeated. "How can you tell?" "Brainwave patterns," Dr. Lee explained. Hannah noticed it first when she watched the battle recordings. She said the creature always pauses after it destroys something, like it is looking for someone who is not there. As if hearing her name, Hannah turned back toward the group of adults. Her young voice was clear and confident despite being surrounded by towering alien warriors. "The big creature is lonely," she said simply. "In the videos, after it breaks things, it always stops and looks around. It is searching for something important that it lost." General Vorth's expression softened slightly, though he still looked doubtful. "Even if that were true, how would knowing this help us? The creature is still heading toward the core worlds. Billions of lives are at stake." "Because," Dr. Lee replied, "if Zareth is not actually a weapon but a companion creature that lost its purpose, then maybe we have been trying to solve the wrong problem. Maybe instead of fighting it, we need to help it." Suddenly, alarms began blaring across the fortress. Red lights flashed along the walls as panicked voices came through the communication systems. In the distance, the energy barriers flickered and sparked like dying stars. "The containment field is failing," shouted a technician running toward them. "It will collapse within the hour." All eyes turned toward the energy prison where the red flashes were growing brighter and more frequent. Zaroth had found a weakness in their defenses and was breaking free. "Get the child to safety," General Vorth ordered, but when he turned around, Hannah was no longer standing behind her father. The little girl was walking slowly toward the failing barriers, her stuffed rabbit tucked safely under one arm, completely unafraid of the approaching storm. The energy barriers cracked like breaking glass, sending bright blue sparks shooting across the dark sky. The sound was so loud it hurt everyone's ears and made the ground shake beneath their feet. Then, with a final flash of light, the prison that had held Zareth for 3 months completely disappeared. For a moment, everything was silent. The alien soldiers held their breath as they stared at the empty space where the barriers used to be. Then a shadow moved in the distance, and they knew their worst fear had come true. Zeroth stepped out of the crater where its prison had been, and even from far away, everyone could see how massive and terrifying it truly was. Its black scales reflected the artificial lights of the fortress like dark mirrors, and its red eyes burned like 2 small suns in the night. When it moved, its huge claws left deep scratches in the metal ground. "All units, open fire." General Vorth screamed. Into his communication device, 50 of the galaxy's best soldiers raised their plasma rifles and began shooting at once. Bright green beams of energy flew through the air towards Zareth, each one powerful enough to destroy a small building. The creature did not even try to dodge them. The plasma bolts hit Zareth's chest and simply bounced off like raindrops hitting a window. Some of the energy beams reflected back toward the soldiers, forcing them to dive behind rocks and metal barriers to avoid being hit by their own weapons. Impossible, whispered Commander Tyke, watching through his electronic telescope. Those rifles can cut through starship armor. Zareth began walking toward the fortress with slow, purposeful steps. Each footstep created small earthquakes that knocked over equipment and made the alien soldiers stumble. As it got closer, everyone could hear the deep rumbling sound it made when it breathed. Bring up the heavy weapons. General Vorth ordered. Large cannon turrets rose from hidden positions around the fortress. These massive guns were designed to fight enemy spaceships and could destroy entire city blocks with a single shot. They all turned toward Zareth and fired at the same time. The explosion was so bright it temporarily blinded everyone watching. Smoke and fire filled the air where Zareth had been standing. For a few seconds, the aliens dared to hope that their powerful weapons had finally worked. But when the smoke cleared, Zareth was still there, completely unharmed. If anything, it looked annoyed by the interruption. It raised its head toward the cannon turrets and let out a roar that shattered every piece of glass in the fortress. Fall back! Everyone fall back to the inner defenses! General Vorth shouted, but his voice was shaking with fear. The elite soldiers began running toward the main building, leaving their useless weapons scattered on the ground. Some of them were the bravest warriors in the galaxy, veterans of 100 battles. But none of them had ever faced anything like this. Dr. Lee Jun stood on the observation platform with his scanning equipment, frantically trying to understand what they were dealing with. Numbers and graphs flashed across his small screen, but nothing made sense. According to his instruments, Zareth should not even be able to exist. The energy readings are impossible, he muttered to himself. Its body temperature, brain activity, muscle density, everything is beyond our understanding of biology. Meanwhile, his daughter Hannah had moved to the edge of the platform, where she could get a better view of what was happening below, while the adult aliens ran in panic and the soldiers fired their weapons in desperation. She watched Zareth with the calm curiosity that only children possess. "Appa," she said quietly, tugging on her father's coat. "Look at how it moves." Dr. Lee glanced down at the battlefield where Zareth was walking through a group of armored vehicles, crushing them like empty cans. "What do you mean, little one?" "After it breaks something, it stops and looks around," Hannah explained, pointing at the massive creature. "See, it just destroyed that big tank. But now it is turning its head back and forth, like it is searching for something." Dr. Lee looked more carefully and realized his daughter was right. Each time Zareth demolished a weapon or knocked down a wall, it would pause and scan the area with what could only be described as confusion. Its red eyes would move from left to right, as if expecting to see something that was not there. "It is not celebrating its victories," Dr. Lee said slowly, understanding beginning to dawn on him. "It is looking for approval. Like a dog that brings a stick to its owner." The realization hit him like a physical blow. "Oh my stars. It is not attacking us because it wants to hurt anyone. It thinks it is supposed to be doing this, but it does not understand why." Down on the battlefield, Zareth had reached the main fortress building. The last group of soldiers was making a final stand at the entrance, their weapons creating a wall of plasma fire that lit up the night sky. But their shots were no more effective than throwing pebbles at a mountain. With one sweep of its massive claw, Zareth scattered the defenders like leaves in the wind. Now nothing stood between the creature and the command center where the remaining aliens had taken shelter, except for one small human girl who was no longer standing safely behind her father. The command center's thick metal doors groaned under the weight of something massive pressing against them from outside. Inside the reinforced bunker, dozens of alien commanders and soldiers huddled behind overturned tables and emergency barriers, their weapons trembling in their hands. "The doors will not hold much longer," whispered Dr. Zenth, her water-like skin rippling with fear. Through the small windows near the ceiling, they could see Zareth's enormous shadow blocking out all the light from outside. General Vorth clutched his plasma rifle with all four of his arms, even though he knew it was useless. "In all my years of battle, I have never felt so helpless," he admitted quietly. "Our strongest weapons are like toys to that creature." Commander Tyke tried to contact the evacuation ships through his communication device, but only static came. Through the speakers, "The transport vessels are too far away," he said, his three eyes filled with despair. "Even if they came at full speed, they could not reach us in time." Dr. Lee Jun held his scanning equipment with shaking hands as he watched the readings spike higher and higher. Zareth's presence was so powerful it was overloading his instruments. "According to these measurements, the creature is directly above us now," he said. "It could break through the ceiling at any moment." That was when everyone realized that 8-year-old Hannah was no longer hiding with the other survivors. Dr. Lee spun around frantically, searching the crowded bunker for his daughter's small form. "Where is she?" he called out. "Has anyone seen Hannah?" Through the reinforced windows, they could see a tiny figure walking slowly across the open ground toward where Zareth stood. The little girl moved without fear, her worn stuffed rabbit tucked under one arm, approaching the massive creature that had terrified an entire galaxy. "No!" Dr. Lee rushed toward the bunker's emergency exit, but Commander Tyke grabbed him with two strong arms. "You cannot go out there," Tyke said firmly. "It would mean certain death for both of you. That is my daughter." Dr. Lee struggled against the alien's grip, tears streaming down his face as he watched Hannah get smaller and smaller in the distance. Outside, Zareth had stopped its assault on the bunker. The creature's massive head lowered until it was looking directly at the approaching child. Its red eyes, which had burned with rage and confusion for so many months, now seemed curious about this small being who showed no fear. Hannah stopped walking when she was close enough to touch Zareth's front claws. The creature was so large that, even sitting down, its head would tower above her like a small building. But she did not run or cry or call for help. Instead, she looked up at Zareth with the same gentle expression she used when helping injured birds in her backyard. "You are lost, are you not?" she said softly, her young voice carrying clearly in the still air. "You do not know where your family went." Zareth tilted its enormous head to one side, listening to the strange sounds coming from this tiny creature. For the first time in months, the constant rumbling in its chest grew quiet. Inside the bunker, everyone watched in stunned silence as the most dangerous being in the galaxy seemed to calm down simply because a child was talking to it. Dr. Lee pressed his face against the window, hardly daring to breathe. "You have been breaking things because you are angry and scared," Hannah continued, taking a small step closer to Zareth. "But that is not making you feel better, is it? It just makes you more lonely." The massive creature's glowing eyes dimmed slightly, and for a moment, something almost like sadness crossed its fearsome features. It made a low sound, deep in its throat that was not quite a growl, and not quite a whimper. "I understand," Hannah said, reaching out to touch one of Zareth's huge claws with her small hand. "Sometimes when I am scared or sad, I want to break things too, but my Appa taught me that does not help. What helps is finding someone who cares about you." Zareth stared down at the child's tiny hand resting on its claw. No living being had touched it gently since its handlers died 50 years ago. It had forgotten what kindness felt like. In that moment of connection, Hannah saw past the monster that everyone else feared. She saw a lost creature that had been alone for so long it had forgotten how to be anything except angry. She saw something that needed help, not weapons pointed at it. "You do not have to be alone anymore," she whispered. "But first, you need to stop scaring everyone." Hannah looked directly into Zareth's burning red eyes and spoke with all the quiet authority of someone who had spent her whole life understanding creatures that others found difficult. Her voice was calm and clear, carrying the weight of simple truth. "Sit." The single word hung in the air between them like a bridge connecting to different worlds. It was not a command backed by technology or force. It was a request from one friend to another, spoken in the universal language of compassion. Zareth's rampage, which had lasted for 6 terrifying months, stopped completely. The creature that had defied every weapon and power in the galaxy slowly lowered itself to the ground in a perfect sitting position, its eyes never leaving the small human child who had finally understood what it needed to hear. 2 weeks after the encounter on Kepler 44b, the Galactic Council met again in their Great Hall. But this time, the atmosphere was completely different. Instead of panic and fear, there was wonder and curiosity filling the air as delegates from across the galaxy gathered to witness something unprecedented. Through the massive glass wall that overlooked the station's central garden, everyone could see Zareth resting peacefully under the artificial sunlight. The creature that had once terrorized entire star systems now lay quietly on the soft grass, with 8-year-old Hannah sitting cross-legged beside its enormous head, reading aloud from a colorful picture book. "The investigation results are unlike anything we have ever discovered," Dr. Lee Jun announced to the assembled council members. He stood at the center of the room, holding a datapad filled with information that would change how the galaxy understood companion relationships forever. "Commander." Tyke leaned forward in his floating chair, his 3 eyes focused intently on the human scientist. "Tell us what you found, Dr. Lee." "Zareth was never designed to be a weapon," Dr. Lee began, pressing a button that made a holographic image appear above the table. The image showed the internal structure of Zareth's brain, with different colored areas highlighting various functions. "According to our genetic analysis, it was created by the Dominion Empire to be the ultimate companion creature." General Vorth, who had called for Zareth's destruction just weeks earlier, shook his head in amazement. "A companion? But it destroyed entire armies because it was programmed to protect its bonded family at any cost," Dr. Lee explained. "When the Dominion Empire collapsed 50 years ago, Zareth's handlers died, leaving it completely alone. It has been grieving ever since." The holographic brain image changed to show emotional centers that were glowing bright red. Even without understanding alien science, everyone could see that these areas indicated extreme distress and loneliness. Every time it destroyed something, it was searching through the wreckage for any sign of its lost family. Dr. Lee continued. The aggression was not malice, it was the desperate actions of a creature that did not understand why it had been abandoned. Dr. Zent's watery skin rippled with emotion as she watched Hannah turn a page in her book, while Zareth listened with complete attention. But why did our control methods fail so completely? Because they were designed to force obedience through technology or mental manipulation. Dr. Lee answered. Zaroth was created to respond only to genuine emotional connection. It can sense the difference between real care and artificial commands. Outside in the garden, Hannah pointed to a picture of a small dog in her book. Zareth carefully extended one massive claw and gently touched the image, making soft rumbling sounds that the translation computers identified as expressions of happiness. My daughter's command worked because it came from a place of understanding and compassion, Dr. Lee explained. She saw past the monster everyone else feared and recognized a lost creature that needed help, not harm. The council members sat in thoughtful silence as they watched the impossible scene through the window. The most dangerous being in their recorded history was now contentedly listening to bedtime stories. Its red eyes, dim and peaceful. What happens now? Asked a delegate with purple fur and tiny hands. We cannot simply release it into the galaxy. Actually, Commander Tyke said, standing up with a document in his hands. Zareth has made a formal request through our translation systems. It wants to serve as humanity's first official ambassador to the Galactic Council. Surprised murmurs filled the hall as the aliens processed this unexpected development. An ambassador was a position of great honor and responsibility, requiring intelligence, wisdom, and the ability to understand complex political situations. It believes that by serving the Council, it can honor the memory of its lost handlers while building new bonds with those who showed it kindness, Dr. Lee added. Zareth is far more intelligent than we originally thought. It has been learning our languages and customs since the day Hannah first spoke to it. General Vorth stood up slowly, his expression thoughtful. In all my years as a military commander, I have learned that the greatest victories come not from superior firepower, but from understanding your enemy well enough to make them your friend. Through the window, they watched as Hannah finished her story and curled up against Zareth's warm side for a nap. The massive creature adjusted its position carefully to make sure the small human was comfortable, then settled down to watch over her sleep. Perhaps, Commander Tyke said quietly, this incident has taught us that the greatest weapon against fear and violence is not stronger armies or better technology, but simple compassion and the willingness to see beyond surface appearances. The Galactic Council voted unanimously to accept Zareth as humanity's ambassador. It would be the first time in their 1,000-year history that a non-humanoid creature held such an important position. As the meeting ended and the delegates began to leave, many of them stopped to watch the peaceful scene in the garden. A little human girl sleeping safely in the protection of a creature that had once been their greatest nightmare, while that same creature hummed soft lullabies that resonated through the station's walls. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Sometimes the most complex problems have surprisingly simple solutions, and the most powerful force in the universe is not destruction, but the courage to offer friendship to those who need it most. In the years that followed, Zareth would become known as the Great Peacekeeper, helping to resolve conflicts between species by showing them that understanding and patience could accomplish what weapons never could.